September the 1st, 2015, the date of release for the first BF4 night map to reach the retail version of the game, Zavod Graveyard Shift. First of all, perhaps, let me define the term night map as I see it. Night maps for Battlefield are not a new idea. The BF2 Special Forces expansion brought us night maps, and both BF3 and BF4 have had maps set at night time, but have generally been very well lit by a bright moon, say, and more or less represented a level of daytime lighting with a blue tint. Maps like Tehran Highway. As well as Death Valley. Caution, users sensitive to the colour blue are advised to turn away now. A night map, for me at least, is the new Zavod Graveyard Shift, where in certain areas you have to use a flashlight or thermal optic to see objects in front of you. This video though is about the journey to the Zavod night map, one which I take pleasure in saying that I had a hand in to some degree. The reason I'm making this video now is because this particular journey was quite a personal one, and the release of this map represents a bit of a landmark. Not only has it consumed more hours of my life than I'd care to count, but also because it has led to the forging of a number of friendships and acquaintances within the Battlefield community, amongst both players and developers. It's a journey that started with one small download that I made almost exactly 1 year ago today, in the form of the BF cinematic tools. This small program, developed by Matti Hietanen, aka Hattiwatti, has pretty much dominated my activity on YouTube and Twitter ever since. The principle of converting existing daytime Battlefield maps into nighttime environments is not a new concept. A handful of BF3 videos can be found on YouTube where this has been achieved, and it was probably that and Hatti's own Caspian Border night map video that prompted me to get into this in the first place. And so my first nighttime environment was born, and I published a video of me running around a very dark Pearl Market map on September the 8th, 2014. This was a pretty basic conversion, my first effort with the Cinematic Tools Environments tab, and looking back on it now it's got some strange reflections and things, but it was generally well received, but not universally so. Someone shared that video on Reddit, and I went back to read some of the comments, the most popular of which, at the top, is really quite negative, and I quote, "DICE addressed this already and said there will be no pitch black night maps, period. Can we please give it a rest?" But giving it a rest was the last thing I wanted to do. In fact, spurred on by some of the beautiful Frostbite 3 lighting effects that I'd seen for myself on Pearl Market, I published a second video a couple of days later, experimenting with the effects of things like flares, smoke and muzzle flashes. Just under a month later, for Halloween, the BF4 CTE received its first taste of what an official night map could look like. The night map that I'd toyed with in a rather amateurish fashion just a few weeks prior had become Pearl Market Halloween Edition. Designed in his spare time, Thomas Wright, DICE's senior lighting artist, had created one of the most actively played and popular maps in the CTE rotation. Complete with full moon, flying pumpkins, bats and the haunting spectres of US assault soldiers, it was a unique playing experience the likes of which had not really been seen in a Battlefield game before. It was the ability to play with others on a night map that really set the wheels in motion for the series of Frightfield 4 night experimental playtests that followed. I set about converting a selection of BF4 maps including Firestorm, Zavod, Shanghai and many more, settings that, using the Cinematic Tools preset feature, could be saved and shared with others so that we could all experience the night environments together and find out just what exactly it would be like to run these maps in the dark. On December the 18th, 2014, we played Night X1, and as I've done before, I must once again thank Westy for getting behind this project from the moment I proposed it, and really enabling the idea to reach other significant community icons like Jack Frags, Beardo, Hoodoo Operator and more. It was with his help that we managed to gather together this small group of trusted YouTubers and Twitch streamers who were willing to run the cinematic tools with my nightmap presets and record and share their experiences. Organising those Frightfield 4 events was one of the most challenging things I've had to do in recent memory, coordinating the participants on a particular date, and then getting everyone set up and running the cinematic tools with their clients, applying the relevant presets for each map that would, in certain instances, maybe not load correctly for some settings. It was also, however, one of the most rewarding, not just because we were able to create some very unique and fun gameplay to watch for the community, but also because it attracted the attention of the DICE LA CTE team, who watched a couple of the events from their offices as they were streamed live on Twitch by the two angry gamers, Tommy and Adam.
If you literally lie down on the floor, nobody can see you.
Shortly after the first event, I was contacted by Tom Wright, who was interested to hear how we had achieved what we had, and it's been my great pleasure since to be able to swap ideas and tips with him. He was able to help me with the finer aspects of in-game fog and lighting, as well as certain texture functions, which ultimately allowed me to develop more authentic looking environments. Both Tom and David Serland commented on the impact of our playtests during an interview for one of the BF Weekly streams with Dan Sheridan.
Did you guys see any of the gameplay that some of the YouTuber guys did? Westy and Jack Frags, and they did their own versions of night maps as well, which looked pretty cool.
Yeah, they did that using the cinematic tools, right? So they tested a lot of maps, which gave us a lot of good feedback. We knew which maps to go for, to look at, to try.
Yeah, it was a good idea because they had already played it a few times, so it was good to make those choices. And Shanghai was actually not my first choice because it's a super hard map to light. It's very complicated, but people that were testing it out in that arena really loved it. So we decided to push that map through for night.
Yeah, and from my point of view, I wanted Siege of Shanghai because it was the hardest one. So if we can solve the hardest one, we can solve the other ones.
Right.
It has a lot of really specific daytime things like reflections and all that kind of stuff.
And the water as well, I guess, plays probably a big part in that as well. That's awesome.
Some of the more direct influences I can lay claim to include low-lying fog over the water on the night version of Siege of Shanghai, a concept which I'd employed on a modified Lankang Dam environment. I also campaigned quite hard to get a low level of fog on Zavod Graveyard Shift, and that too was integrated into the map that people will now be able to play. Zavod in general is a particular favourite of mine. There's something about the mix of haunting woodland areas with the abandoned industrial tank factory that lends itself to a very atmospheric night map. And the fog, in my opinion, is integral to making this another example of a unique BF4 playing experience. As well as providing the unique look, my idea behind the Zavod fog was also to serve as a method of reducing the advantage that can be gained by increasing gamma or brightness on a night map, one of the main arguments cited by people generally opposed to the idea of dark maps. It's a real credit to Tom and the DICE LA team, who have been really very brave in their willingness to take on these ideas and publish them for general consumption. It will not be a map that suits everyone. It's certainly not a map designed for competitive play. For me though, BF4 is also about awesome moments, sights and sounds, and this release with the summer patch really nails that in my opinion. I can't deny that 3D spotting will have a negative impact on the night map experience, because I think it will. If you know me, you'll know I consider Doritos to be the spawn of Satan on any map. I strongly encourage players to seek out servers with 3D spotting off, or ideally running the classic mode game preset. As part of the update, 3D spotting has received a little bit of a tweak to make it less spammable and more specific to the area you're pointing at, but for me these maps need to be played with it turned off. Waiting in the CTE wings are night versions of Shanghai and Golmud Railway, maps that I believe are still on track for release but were not quite fit for the summer patch. Infiltration of Shanghai, the name given to the night version, is a particularly good map. We had great fun with it during the community playtests. I can't tell you how awesome it is that we influenced DICE's decision to set about converting it. I only hope that we don't have to wait too long to see the finished product. Lastly, I would like to voice my appreciation for DICE LA once again for making this dream become a reality. The CTE has been groundbreaking for the Battlefield franchise, and it will continue to be so for some time to come, with new and exciting content. Night maps aside, the summer patch is a game changer. Once we get our hands on high tick rate servers, I can assure you that Battlefield will be in the best shape it's ever been, with more on the way. Enjoy.